What's up, y'all? How we feeling this morning? It's a beautiful Sunday morning, you know? Makes you really appreciate the little things in life. Whether it be dumping rain or you're in a deep blizzard right now, you gotta just appreciate the situation that you're in for what it is and understand that it's changeable and that nothing, whether you think that it's an empty rut or not, is going to keep you there forever, so long as you see it that way. You know what I mean? Like, things don't have to stay the same if you don't want them to stay the same. But, you know, that's kind of a choice you need to make, and I wouldn't let your levels of comfort blindside you from the truths that you may need to face, whether that be finding a part of yourself that you haven't discovered yet, or you know, kind of just cutting down on the noise that you're consuming. Because at least for me, when I tend to find myself in situations where I become unhappy and I become confused and I become unclear, it's usually because of too much consumption of advice, whether that be in the form of just doom scrolling or on Twitter or whatever, you know, maybe even on YouTube watching content like this. You know, that it's kind of funny how it works, but the more I put my phone away and the more I just kind of detach from the system, you know, the clearer I think, the more I want to pursue my own projects, the more I want to kind of just carve out my own path. But it's, you know, it can be hard, man, especially when you're starting out. You kind of don't know where to go, and you don't really know what the future lies ahead, and you don't know what you want to do. But I think that the thing you need to avoid is just consuming too much business advice or self-improvement advice, because, you know, up until very recently, I had done this for a really long time, and I wasn't realize it was blindsiding me socially, and it was blindsiding me from actually seeking out human connection. Because imagine a society where social hierarchy didn't exist. You know, it wasn't all about you know, secondary advantages or monetary gains or you know, motives that were driven by profit or driven by just social status. And then what would be left is the one thing that, you know, humans were put on this planet for, and that is to connect with each other. So when you take that away from someone, it really creates this I'm better than everyone mindset, and I'm, you know, I'm all about the grind mindset, and I'm all about, you know, I don't identify with any one mindset, because I'm just this perfect you know, monk of a being. But I think that's cope, because if, you know, the more I seek out strong connection within my community, the happier I am. And I always tell myself you can, you know, work and train as hard as you want, but no amount of working and training and whatnot is going to fix the problem of being isolated. And I think that, at least in the men that I talk to, a lot of them seem they're alienated from themselves in a way. It's because they don't have people in their life that, you know, uplift them, that don't, you know, push them to become better, or don't, you know, support them when they're down. And man, I'm just telling you, if you can be the guy who uplifts spirits, you can be the guy who rallies the troops, you can can be the guy that, when people are talking down to themselves, like after they, approach a girl and they get rejected, or after they try a new business idea and, it doesn't go exactly to plan, or, they try embarking on a new hobby and, they play golf and they shoot a 130 for the first round. You can be like, hey, like, this is just part of the journey. Like, you just need to adopt a mindset where, the beginning of starting something new may not be fun, or it may not be the most enjoyable thing, but once you get over that like initial hump, and trust me, it does not take very long to see success. And when I say success, I don't mean getting your first 10K paycheck. I mean just seeing your first win. Once you see that first win, the boulder's already being pushed down the hill. Like, the momentum just carries itself, because your brain craves that kind of dopamine. Like, I think following dopamine and chasing dopamine are two very different things. Chasing dopamine to me would be chasing the next like instant hit, or the next the next fad, or the next trend, or things that make you feel instantly good. But following dopamine would be doing things that give you energy and give you meaning and give you purpose and give you challenge, and also give you dopamine at the same time. So it's essentially knocking out two birds with one stone. But man, if you could be that guy that just fucking uplifts spirits when people are talking down to themselves, that can put aside his own anger, resentment, judgment, lust, any of those vices, people are gonna like you, man. People are really gonna just like being around you. Like, everyone is so in their own head. Like, even me. Like, we are just so in our own heads for no reason. It's part of being human. But as soon as you recognize that, you win. That's it. Because then you learn to kind of break the rules and break down, the chains that are holding you back. And what happens when you go out and uplift spirits like that? When you're around other people, when you're constantly in third spaces, that starts to reflect back on you too. So it's honestly like fake it until you make it in a way. I'm not really a huge believer in that, but if you uplift spirits, like, something inside of you is telling you that also applies to yourself. You know what I mean? You need to be the guy that gets the people going. You know exactly what I'm talking about. If you can get the people going, that doesn't mean you need to like have a master plan for everything, or but if you can just go out and just fucking tell the guy at the grocery store, that he looks like he's been like lifting good weights, or he looks strong, like, that's uplifting spirits. Or you can just give a random person a compliment, like, on the shirt that they're wearing. It's not like, I have to like go host a conference and like, uplift all these people. That's not what I'm saying. But can you do it in your small daily actions? Because if you start doing that, it's going to reflect well on you. And then once it reflects well on you, it will you'll carry a different energy about yourself. And then once shit hits the fan, you're like, oh, okay, it's not that bad. Because it can only affect you if it affects your character and your spirit. That's it. Nothing else. But I want to know what you guys think. I don't really want to sit here and give you advice. I want to talk to you. That's what this is. I'm talking to you. Okay? I'm not, the next red pill guy telling you, check off A, check off B, check off C. No, you're a human. You're not like a to-do list. You're not a checklist. Like, you're not. You have a soul that needs to be nourished. And that's nourished through connection. And positive connection comes from positive energy. And positive energy comes from positive thinking. Positive thinking, comes from positive compliment and reinforcement and belief, and benefit to other people. But